Oh my goodness. Last night in our live stream, about halfway through, we received, thanks to TMZ for publishing it publicly, the latest filing from the people of the state of California versus David Anthony Burke, known not so lovingly on this channel because I'm a follower. It's Pascal who coined it, to my knowledge, but known on this channel as D4vd. And we went through that. We actually spent quite a bit of time going through the document, and it just hasn't sat well with me overnight. I want to go through it again. There are other things that we want to add as well, but the main issue that I have, that the main issue that I have is obvious. I'm sure it's the same issue that you have, and that is that a famous rising star recording artist with power and with money was apparently essaying, like they in the documents they referred to it as relations, but we know it's not a relationship. A 13-year-old, a 14-year-old cannot consent. They're a child. But for at least a year, he essayed this child and talked to her about things like Plan B and abortion and stuff like that, which before he took her life, he took away so much more, and it's made me so angry. And I think it's important we talk about this. I actually just put a goal for some super chats today, because this conversation needs to be had and needs to be had publicly, but I know that YouTube is going to demonetize this conversation. And it's only through super chats that we can get this in front of other people, and I can continue doing this work. And so thank you for that. And thank you for watching and listening on Spotify. Thank you for being patrons. Thank you for being members. Thank you for watching, sharing, commenting. The comments are super valuable. So we're gonna get into a bit of a timeline tonight. I'm gonna talk timeline of this case. We are going to we're actually gonna get into an interview that David Burke did 2 days after prosecutors say he murdered Celeste Rivas. And then we will get into the brief that we got into last night. We'll talk about it a little bit more. I think for those of you who were with us in our live stream last night, I'm sure you've been ruminating on it like I have. It's so infuriating. So we're going to get back into it. Even though it is it's a subject matter that is, we need to be really sensitive on this, but it's so important, man. All of us know some would-be victim, some little girl, some little boy that could become a victim to a predator like this, who is willing to pay another victim $1,000 to deliver a telephone to Celeste in order to continue his conversation and his predation on her. We learned from the prosecutor's briefing last night. There's just so much. We're also going to do 3 questions. We're going to get into a little update on Jack and Lily Sullivan. Got a strange, and thankfully we've got a strange story out of Missouri from Crime Cod. If you have not subscribed to Crime Cod, I suggest you do that. Just go to gavinfish.com, click on Crime Cod. You can subscribe to the newsletter. And then we're going to finish out the day with some good news, because just every once in a while, when you nosh on the what would we call it? When we consume the flavorful and sometimes spicy food of true crime, we need to cleanse the palate with the humble saltine. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to end tonight with some good news. Stay with me. This video contains mature themes and discussions intended only for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Well, hello there, my friend, and welcome back to another True Crime Conversation with me, Gavin Fish. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, for having me on in the background while you're doing chores or cooking dinner, whatever it is that whenever you are watching me or listening to me. I appreciate it. You know what else I appreciate? So many of you just getting us out, getting us started. Beth, thank you very much for your super chat. Ann Potter, thank you very much. I'm happy to do these analyses, and I hope that they are thoughtful. Marie, thank you. Marie says, I'm happy to support your work. Thank you for continuing to cover this. It's such an important case. Mooney saying, here we go. Thank you, Mooney. I appreciate you. And Proud Grizzly saying, no demonetizing this very important topic. Thank you for getting us started. You guys are awesome. Guys, who are we talking about tonight? None other than Celeste Rivas. Celeste, who I didn't know. I don't know her friends, her family. But I remember being a teenager, and I remember raising teenagers, and I remember it being a hard time to live through and a hard time to parent, I have to say. And this young woman was a victim of a highly skilled, in my opinion, this is what all the information coming out informs me anyway. She was a victim of a highly skilled, highly practiced predator who was on the hunt for a young girl. I should actually take a moment here because my wife brought something up to me a little bit earlier. She said that there are several people in the comments that object to me referring to Celeste as a young woman. You know what? We were talking about this when I call a child young woman or young man, it's me actually trying to show respect to that child. Hello there, young man. How are you doing? Boy, you sure are growing like a weed. That kind of thing. But I guess it makes some people uncomfortable because Celeste wasn't a woman, right? She wasn't anywhere approaching a woman. She was a child. And so I am going to do my very best to not refer to her as a young woman, to refer to her as a girl, as a child, which is what she was. And when this guy, D4vd, David Anthony Burke, began speaking to her when he was 18 years old, she was but 11. 11. And we know according to prosecutors, that she was 13 when they began when he began essaying her. But I suspect probably younger. I really do. And it makes me sick. It makes me so angry. It makes me angry on behalf of all of us that do our best to raise children and protect them from predators like this. It's just so infuriating. Thank you very much, Ms. OB54, for your super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Okay, so Mr. Burke began talking to her when she was 11. He lured her. He groomed her. He lured her out of where she was safest. And I don't know if her home was necessarily a safe place. I don't know. I don't know that it wasn't. But I know that her community was safer than with him. I think that's apparent, right? And this is just a recap of the case so that everybody knows. So Celeste, a 14-year-old Lake Elsinore young girl, is lured away from her life, from her family, her friends, into the orbit of this star on the rise, the successful recording artist known as David, spelled with a 4. I call him D4vd. And she ends up dead, chopped up, incomplete, and dismissively, disrespectfully, and unlovingly stuffed into a bag and stored in a trunk of his car. The car that we now know from prosecutors, or I should say prosecutors allege that he was the last person to drive that car. So, yeah, that is the recap of the case. Elizabeth McMaster saying, "Thank you for covering this, Gavin. We were singing your praises with Tiff Ritter today. If your ears were burning." Well, Tiff is rad, everybody, and thank you very much. Thanks for taking care of me. Yeah, Tiff is amazing. Tiff, if you guys don't know, is it okay to say better half? It is if they're better, right? Yeah. She's the other / better half of Joshua Ritter from Courtroom Confidential. They, as a team, run that channel, and they're doing terrifically. They're awesome, and you should definitely subscribe to Courtroom Confidential. What I love, when I started on YouTube, this is a bit of a tangent, yeah. Another fish tangent now. Woo! I started YouTube something like 6 years ago now, and I remember at the time it felt like nobody would help. and part of it was, you need to go through the hard part of starting and building a YouTube channel, because you're so bad when you begin, right? And you have to get better and better over time. So part of it is that, but the other part was when I would reach out to other YouTubers, they were afraid that I was going to take their traffic or something, right? And what was really refreshing, the very first person where I didn't feel that was Sherilyn Dale. And Sherilyn's just all sorts awesome. I love her to death. She's one of my closest YouTube friends. She's so cool. And then, it continued with Joel and Carm over on Surviving the Survivor, with Gisela K on Grizzly True Crime, and it is continued with Joshua and Tiff Ritter on Courtroom Confidential. There are other channels as well, Guilty of Crime, Pascal, just Duty Ron's amazing, right? We all are striving to tell different perspectives of the same story. And I think that there's strength in that, right? It helps all of us, and it helps get the story told without being overly, I guess, I can't even think of the word. Just like overly, I can't think of the word. It doesn't matter. But I just really appreciate people like Tiff and Josh. They're awesome. Okay. I want to start tonight, now that we are 15 minutes in. Man, I just talk a lot. With a article coming out of Us Magazine, written by Mike Volpo, that is titled "Everything to Know About Celeste Rivas Murder Case" with D4vd. Printed out, it's a 13-page article. We don't have to go through all of it, but let's remember, let's get into the nitty-gritty, right? If you're into true crime and you want to get into the nitty-gritty, this is where we do it. Okay. So again, written by Mike Volpo. This came out today in Us Magazine. D4vd was accused of murder after a teenage girl's body was found in the trunk of a Tesla registered to the singer. Us Weekly confirmed that David Burke was arrested on April 16th, 2026, following a months-long investigation. Can you believe that? It's only been 2 weeks. Detectives from the LAPD Robbery Homicide Division arrested Burke, 21, resident of LA, for the murder of Celeste. And then let's get into the details. Rivas was first reported missing in April 2024. According to this article, I think it was also February 2024, but April 2024. The Riverside County Sheriff's Office confirmed to the LA Times. Her case, however, didn't gain national attention until a medical examiner confirmed Rivas's body was found inside a Tesla registered to David D4vd in September of 2025. Rivas turned 15 the day before her body was found. Her body was found on September 8th. She would have turned 15 on the 7th. And remember how the case started. There's a body. We think maybe it was dismembered inside the front trunk area of a car. And oh, by the way, it's a car that belongs or is registered to David Burke, right? Now, while all this is happening, David has got his new album coming out, right? So before an investigation began, D4vd released a brand new album in April 2025 titled Withered. The body of work featured a variety of songs, including a track called Afterlife. D4vd was expected to release Withered Deluxe Marcescence on September 19th, 2025. Quote, "Every song written exclusively by me on my phone, baby. This is a passion project I put together to make sure I didn't lose the raw emotional weight my music carries and how much it means to you all," he wrote via Instagram days before the release. "Thank you for all the friends who collaborated with me on this. Everyone ate their verses up, heart, heart, heart." Okay, I know that 20 and 21-year-olds are definitionally idiots. I mean, I was. You probably were. We all were. But you know how when you talk to like actual songwriters where you're like, these are people that I'm talking like your Bob's Dylan, your Paul's Simon, I don't know, your Marvin's Gaye, your Carol's King, you know, Carol's K. It's Carol King mostly. Yeah. Anyway, when you're talking to actual songwriters and you're like, hey, because as lovers of music and as followers and enthusiasts, we want to go, hey, what was it? What was happening in your life that made you write Maxwell's Silver Hammer or whatever, right? And usually a songwriter is not all that serious about things. They're just like, oh, I just thought it was funny. Or, yeah, I was going through a breakup. Or, yeah, it's usually something that is completely human, completely mundane, sometimes occasionally profound, but not all that. Basically what I'm getting at is they don't take themselves seriously. But when I read a quote like this by a 21-year-old idiot, and remember that like Paul Simon, Carole King, John Lennon, these guys were all about that same age when they were writing their best stuff, right? They did not say stuff that I wanted to make sure I didn't lose the raw emotional weight my music carries and how much it means to you all. Bull crap. Come on, shut up. Just write your tunes. collect your checks and stop being so serious. Like like I've heard Paul McCartney talk about writing Blackbird and how, he was watching the injustice that was happening in the American South, and that's cool, right? But he's not taking himself seriously. He's taking the situation seriously, right? That's like us. We take victims seriously. We take victims' families seriously. We don't take ourselves seriously, right? And this kind of stuff just like, and I can see, I guess I need to look in a mirror on this because I could see myself saying something so freaking stupid at that age too. I guess. But boy, am I glad that there are the Dylans of the world or the Marleys, right? That take it so seriously. Okay. What's the name of the woman? Amy, is it Amy Mann who wrote Voices Carry? Gosh, that's a great song. Okay, I'm getting off track. In 2022, D4vd also released a song called Romantic Homicide. I watched that video and listened to it for the very first time yesterday. I thought it was crap, but I'm an old man. I'm not in that demographic. The accompanying music video showed a bloodied woman in a white dress. Quote, "Everything has a meaning behind it. I think that's what poetry is," he previously told Genius. "It's like an interpretation, and another person can read the same thing and take something else out of it and find new things every time. All of my songs, I think, are poetry." Oh, I just want to throw up right now. I just took that into my brain. I wish my brain could just throw that up and it not be there anymore. Look at this. This is D4vd's last Instagram post before being connected to Celeste Rivas's death. Before a body, so she died in April. This is September. Here he is. Before a body was discovered in a vehicle registered to D4vd, the artist took to social media on September 6, 25 and revealed, "I start media training tomorrow, guys. Wish me luck." You know what? Maybe I need to just calm down on the lad. I mean, the Paul's Simon, the Carol's King, the Marvin's Gay, the Amy's Man, they did not have social media that they had to deal with too. And actually, that's going to get into our good news later on. They didn't have to do that. They had to do other things. But anyway, police confirmed to Us Weekly that officers responded. Yeah, okay, her body was found on September 8th. The body found in David's car was identified as Celeste's on September 17th. And then in an interview with TMZ published that day, Celeste's mom said she had a boyfriend named David. D4vd's real name is David Anthony Burke. There's a picture of Celeste. Rivas's mom told TMZ that her daughter had a tattoo on her finger with the letters "shh." D4vd also reportedly has the same tattoo also located on his right index finger. The tattoo design, however, was originally popularized by Rihanna in 2008, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then law enforcement confirmed to NBC LA that authorities searched the house in connection with the investigation on September 17th. Now, we learned from that document what they found, right? And Steve Fisher has been on this, man. SF Investigates on X. I reached out to him today. That's the second time I've reached out to him. I don't expect that he's going to get back to me. I am just kind of a piddly little YouTube channel. But I did reach out just on the off chance that maybe he will be willing to talk. But when he has gone to social media or has done interviews and has released information that he knows, and he's withheld a lot too, but he's dripped out little pieces of information. It has all turned out to be true. I'm like, yeah, I'd expect nothing less, I guess. He's a great investigator. Okay, so that was September 17th that they went to the house to to investigate. TMZ reported that authorities emerged from the house with a computer, several bags of evidence. Maybe that's how they got onto his iCloud account, is through a computer. I don't know. Let's see. He had been on the Withered tour. He canceled his show in the city on September 16th. Shortly thereafter, the family, after the body was confirmed to be Celeste's, her family began a GoFundMe. And it said, as many of you know, you know what? I haven't checked to see. So they raised $24,843. Not a little, not a lot, but that's what they ended up raising. Quote, as many of you know, Celeste Rivas Hernandez has been identified as the body found last week. Her family wrote on the page, she was a beloved daughter, sister, cousin, and friend. Her family is heartbroken and devastated by the tragic loss. They are seeking to help lay her body to rest. Any funds you are able to donate are greatly appreciated. David canceled his tour dates that September, just this past September, which I guess he canceled San Francisco and LA. His appearance at the Grammy Museum was also canceled. Many of his international tour dates were also canceled. That included Paris, Amsterdam, Berlin, and more. His December concerts in Australia were later canceled. His deluxe album was paused. David's music label, Interscope, and parent company UMG reportedly paused the release of the deluxe version of the singer's Withered album out of respect for the seriousness of the situation and the ongoing investigation. And this guy's kills me, because you know what? When there is a rising star like D4vd, that kid was printing money for Interscope, for UMG, for his agent, for management, for Ticketmaster, for venues, for people that collaborated with him. He was printing money. He was making money out of nothing. And that means that he is going to be surrounded by vultures. I'm mixing metaphors, but like the sharks, the big sharks that swim around with the little fish around them, just hoping to like get little nibbles of the things that they destroy, right? Or the ones that are like suck onto them and clean them off. This is the way the industry is. I hate the entertainment industry with a passion. But they knew. That's what I think. That's my opinion. How could they not? And you know what happens? You know what happens when one person knows, 10 people know, which means 100 people know, which means 1,000 people know. They knew. They did not pause the release of the deluxe version of the album out of respect for the seriousness of the situation. They knew. They knew that he was going to be arrested. And they were scattering. They were like, and I've got so many metaphors going on, but the light switch had been turned on, and the cockroaches that had been feasting on all the crap that had been left in the wake of this, I don't know, this sow that was just delivering sustenance to these idiots. The light turns on and they scatter, man. Man, talk about mixing of metaphors. What have I got here? I've got sharks. I've got vultures. I've got a sow for some reason. I've got cockroaches. No, but you know what I'm getting at, right? Everybody around him knew. They knew what happened. He didn't do this in a vacuum. Come on. Okay. Her body was released, or I guess the coroner confirmed to TMZ on September 23rd that her body had been released to her family. The investigation into her death continued. An LAPD captain and commanding officer Scott M. Williams told People on September 28th that she had been dead for several weeks. Of course, we have found out now several weeks. We're talking April 23rd to September 8th. So 1 week in April, let's say 1 week in September, and then all of May. That's 4. All of June, July, August. So that's 16, 17. We're talking 18 weeks that we believe her body was in those bags in the Tesla. We even read, and we're going to read it again, that people were complaining about the smell. People around him were complaining about the smell. And they didn't call police. You know why? Because they knew or they suspected. And they were like, let's add another metaphor. They were succubi, right? They were sucking the energy off of this guy. And they didn't want to, oh, I've got another one. They didn't want to kill the cash cow. Okay, somebody count how many metaphors I'm mixing here. Okay, let's see. On September 29th, TMZ reported that Rivas's death certificate revealed she was not pregnant when she died, and the teen had not been pregnant in the last year. Okay. Of course, David was talking to her about abortion and Plan B. Does that mean she needed one? Or was it just silly banter? Hey, sorry, maybe you should take Plan B, and don't worry, I'll pay for an abortion, or something like that. She's 13. She's a little girl. Okay, according to Us Weekly, police were often called to Celeste Rivas's home. Riverside County Sheriff deputies were called to Rivas's house 11 times in just 1 year, TMZ reported on October 1st. According to police records obtained by the outlet, deputies responded to Rivas's house in Lake Elsinore, California several times between February 2024 and April 2025. On March 19th of 24, deputies reportedly visited her properties 3 times in 1 day. Properties? That's weird how they say that. Per TMZ, the record stated most of the calls were listed as minor crime investigation, with the exception of one other call for serious or suspicious circumstances. I want to make sure that I've gotten everybody. I've just been blathering on. Thank you, Jude, for the super chat. I appreciate you. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss anybody here. You guys are taking good care of me. If I did, I'm so sorry. I just want to check. Is there another way I can check here? Yeah, I think I got everybody. Thank you. I'll do my best to keep my eye open so I don't miss out on any comments here. Okay. D4vd was named a suspect in Celeste's death in November 2025, according to an LAPD source. NBC News is the one who reported that. He had not been arrested. Then California private investigator Steve Fisher took to X on December 16th, 2025 to claim that he was hired by the owner of the property that Mr. Burke was renting. Amid his investigation, Fisher alleged he found a 55-pound bird cage inside the home. He also noted that it had not been used and was still in its original packaging. The PI went on to state that the incinerator burns at 1600 degrees, explaining that crematoriums typically set their equipment to 1400 degrees. It is barred to use such an incinerator within the city of Los Angeles. And of course, Steve Fisher was not wrong. We learned from the document yesterday. Okay, on April 16th, finally, D4vd was arrested and charged with Celeste's murder, held without bail. There were special circumstances, of course, right? So, on the 20th, DA Hockman announced that he'll be charged with first-degree murder. He said, I'm a parent of 3 children, and a parent's nightmare is a situation where your daughter goes out one night and never comes back. Goes out, and this is not me nitpicking Mr. Hochman. He said it perfectly, but we learned more details. She was sent an Uber to go 70 miles, something like that, 60 to 80, I can't remember. Lake Elsinore to the Hollywood Hills. I think it's like 70 miles. An Uber goes and picks her up and delivers her on the night that prosecutors allege that she died to Mr. Burke's house. Okay, I'm a parent of 3 children, and a parent's nightmare is a situation where your daughter goes out one night and never comes back, as we will show in a court of law, Hochman told NBC News and other reporters. Hochman noted that there are additional special circumstances which could have D4vd facing a potential DP. That determination will be made at another date. And if you're going to ask me to bet on it, with the political situation in the city of Los Angeles, and this is me remaining apolitical, I'm not going to comment on the situation, just that there was a situation where a former DA was, I guess, I don't want to say known to be, because that's stating it as a fact, but was believed by his opposition to be light on crime, not tough on crime. And Mr. Hochman was elected as, I will be tough on crime. We gotta be tough on this. And while California does have the DP, there's a moratorium on it. But I still think that Hochman's probably going to charge it with the DP. If I had to bet, I think he would, because there's tremendous pressure on his office, because he went into the office being the tough on crime guy with a county sick of his predecessor not prosecuting crime, or their perception of him not prosecuting crime. If I'm trying to be fair and apolitical here, I think in those circumstances, I think Hochman has to, if he wants to keep his job. And those enhancements, by the way, were lying in wait, the continuous SA of Celeste, and the killing of a witness to a crime. If that's just off of memory, there's probably a little bit more. There's his mugshot that was released. He pleads not guilty. And then the autopsy that was performed by the LA County Medical Examiner's Office was released in April. It confirmed that she died from multiple penetrating injuries. Of course, this is the opinion of the ME. She was so badly decomposed that it was the opinion, right? And it's always an opinion. The medical examiner's report stated that Rivas suffered 2 penetrating wounds in her torso, as well as bilateral dismemberment of her upper and lower extremities, multiple additional skin defects. Toxicology report stated that Rivas has alcohol, benzos, methamphetamine, and MDMA present in her system. Sort of. It said that there was ethanol, but they couldn't tell if she had consumed alcohol or if it was a byproduct of the decomp, and it said that they presumed the presence of benzodiazepines, methamphetamine, MDMA. I don't know if that was, somebody help me on this, but I don't know if that was like formally concluded. Yes, that is the case. But if that is the case, I mean, that she's 14. She's a 14-year-old girl. What are you doing giving benzos, if this is the case, and meth, MDMA to a 14-year-old? What are you doing? Okay, and then just recently, the autopsy report came out. course, she was dismembered into several fragments. A couple of fingers were missing. We talked about that yesterday. Thanks to True Crime with Strategic Eyes. Guys, go and subscribe to Strategic Eyes. The channel is called True Crime with Strategic Eyes. I'm impressed as all get out with that guy and his team. Amazing. Okay. David appeared. He's appeared in court a couple times. Beth Silverman's like, yeah, let's go. Let's do this. Let's move along. And defense has been, yeah, let's move along. Wait a minute. 40 terabytes, you say? Can we hold off just a little bit, right? And now we think that it'll be later in May that we get the preliminary hearing. We learned that Celeste's body was likely dismembered with a chainsaw in an inflatable pool. Placed her into a body bag and then her limbs into a garbage bag, which were then deposited into his car. Why? Because he's a dillhole. Because he's an idiot. Do I have dillhole audio? I do. Such a dillhole. Yeah, what an idiot. Oh, my goodness. So, okay. So that gives us the whole timeline, right? And thanks to Us Magazine or Us Weekly for doing this. That's that was actually very well put together. Mr. Mike Volpo, thank you very much for that. That's a great report. Terrific report. Well done. Okay, I found this. This is an interview the D4vd did with Songwriter Universe on April 25th, 2025. Now, what's so special about April 25th, 2025? Well, it is 48 hours after less than 48 hours after his baptism into the murderous church of the culty murderers, whatever I don't know, right? The dude was baptized in blood. He went from being what I think is just a very disturbed individual and an assayer of children / predator to murderer. And then he just goes and just nonchalantly does an interview. And there's audio that's come out on this. But, I mean, his work, this guy. I did see that a note was added to it by Songwriter Universe saying, note, this article was posted in April 2025 when D4vd was a fast-rising music star with a bright future. It was 5 months later that he was connected to a murder investigation. And good on Songwriter Universe for keeping this published. I'm glad they did. But let's listen to it. Let's just read a couple of things that he says. I don't know. Let's get into it when he's a little warmed up. D4vd says, yeah, I recorded Romantic Homicide straight off my phone, and it took me 30 minutes to write it. I was like in a flow state when I wrote that song. I wanted to convey the emotion of sadness and grieving, and I tapped into this emotion that I hadn't done before, and it came super easy to me. I released that song around July 2022. I posted it on TikTok, and it blew up instantly. It was crazy. I was in a flow state. After Romantic Homicide, you followed up with a ballad, Here With Me. Can you talk about writing that song? Sure. That song was even more special because I wrote that song after watching the Disney movie Up. When I make music, I draw inspiration from different things. I get inspired by movies, television, and life things in general. But for that song in particular, it was the Disney movie. So I was looking at Carl and Ellie's relationship, and when Ellie dies and Carl travels to Paradise Falls, I was like, I need to encapsulate this movie into a song. I instantly got into the closet and I was working on that song and thinking about the entire movie in the process. Okay. Interesting. what's your songwriting process? It's definitely, and he's a murderer, allegedly, at this point. And people are asking about his music, and he's like, let me tell you about the old music. I'll tell you all about it. I'll tell you all about it. Oh, you know what? I think I missed a super chat. Sorry, guys. I got into it again. LG Rescues says, this case is so disturbing. You are covering it wonderfully. Thank you, LG. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the support. But what gets me on this interview is that late at night on the 23rd, she didn't get there till like 10:30, something like that, 10:10. I think the kill window is between 10:10 and 10:30. We'll get to the document. We'll get to the document. We'll be able to nail that down. But so on the 23rd, late at night, he is just a psycho SAer of children. And then sometime between, I think, 10:10 and 10:30, he becomes a murderer. But I guess what's important to him is that he just continues to tell people about Carl and Ellie's relationship. It's just so cognitively dissonant. Not dissident, dissonant. Can you remove that in post, Javi? Thank you. It's just dissonant. He's doing that. He's taking pictures in front of toys. He's telling people he's going to be taking social media courses, which I'm sure is from his label, right? And he's doing all this stuff. Yeah, those two EPs are like the staples of the beginning of my career, showcasing the music I make, the artistic vision I have, what the visuals are looking like, what the aesthetic is, what the sonic identity is. Oh my goodness. And it's introducing myself to the world in a way. So those two projects are the foundations of what this album is going to be. Goodness sake, taking himself so seriously. You are a murderer, sir. Where'd it go wrong? Oh, this is great. It's like that perfect segue into the new era. Yeah, the era of you being a murderer. My fans know that sound from me the most, and that's the sound that I emerged on with BandLab. It's that classic D4vd indie rock bedroom pop sound. And I want to bring that back after being away from it for so long. I did a couple of songs last year for different TV shows that have a different sonic or sound, and wanted to bring that old sound, that old fresh sound back with Where'd It Go Wrong, then with One More Dance. It's that perfect transition into something more evolved. Speaking of transitions, you have transitioned into a murderer, sir. But I digress. And more mature a sound. Oh, now he's talking about maturity. Now maturity is important to him. A mature sound that I haven't really explored yet, which is that super structured, very intentional song, which is what the contrast of these two songs are. I just can't this guy anymore. I just cannot anymore. Because I haven't yet. I typically, if you're new here, I typically am way more about your comments. And my system has refreshed so many times that I'm missing tons of your comments. So I'm very sorry about that. Let me just see if there are a couple in here that I can grab that you put GF. OC Girl says, Gavin, everyone should be charged. Agreed. All of the cockroaches / succubi / fish swimming around him / crows, all of them need to be held accountable. I think I'm with you. See, you guys had, I'm sure, such great comments, but my system refreshed and now I don't see the highlights where you're putting a GF in there. Sorry, guys. I'm going to miss out on so much of this. Autumn, our intrepid lead moderator, he has a song called Celeste. He does. I've heard that. And I just don't want to. D4vd Celeste song lyrics. I mute this tab just in cases. Okay, here's the lyrical genius of the song called Celeste, recorded in late 2023, named after a former partner of David's. Celeste is an unreleased song expressing his deep emotions for the alleged subject over a sad piano melody. Blah, blah, blah. Baby, baby, I love you. So this is what it's like to not need weed to get me high. I love it when you hold me, when you make me. No, I'm not. No, I'm no. I'm no. Nope. 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 This guy. This is not a partner. She's not a partner. She's a victim. She's not a partner. She's not a former partner. She's not a girlfriend. She's not a lover. She's a victim of a vicious predator. Oh, that is sick. It's sickening. Yeah, guys, if you put GF in front of your comment, I'll yeah. I'll see it on this side. Cabling. Nope, let it go with that song. It's gross. Yeah, I'm not doing it. Not doing it. Yeah. Mooney, she is a child. Valerie Dahl, all the inner circle who knew should be charged, but it is my guess that at least one will get a deal to strengthen the prosecution's case. You're not wrong. That's a great insight, Valerie. It may not be immunity, but it may be lesser charges. Well, and this is how I felt, and I think a lot of us felt about Jen Soto in the Madeline Soto case, right? Charge them. They also need to be like, are they able to get enough evidence to make the charge? I don't know. Scotch's mom, that team of his had to have known about Celeste and how underage she was, and they said nothing. I agree. Coffee time for D. I can't. When you hold me, she's a helpless victim. He is awful. Nemochi says, it's so sad. Just wonder where her parents were doing during all this too. Yeah. I saw that interview with Steve Fisher, and it appears that they all knew what was going on. I don't want to blame them because I don't know the details. I don't know if they are to blame or to what degree. But I'm suspicious. Suspicious. Thanks for those comments, guys. Okay, let's go. Let's see. Another super chat came in. Thank you, Lily Goat. Really appreciate that. Man, I think we just hit our, did we hit our goal? If not, we're close. We're close. Thank you very much. Let me go over to the People's Brief here. You guys, we talked about this. We went over the whole thing yesterday. And there's a link to Patreon in the description below. Guys, I put documents like this onto Patreon as a benefit for my supporters there. But I went through this entire document, read it front to back, beginning to end, in yesterday's video. And it's available on TMZ. Okay, so you can get it. I don't want you to feel like I'm totally gatekeeping here. I don't think that I'm going to go through the entire thing today. Because if I can just go on a little bit of a tangent, I've got a special appointment tonight because today is a birthday of one of our children. So we're not going to go long tonight. But couple things that I wanted to read here. Okay, this is on page 2. Pursuant, and this is a filing from the DA's office called the People's Brief regarding the preliminary hearing evidence. Remember, a preliminary hearing is a hearing to demonstrate to a judge that the people have enough to overcome the hurdle of probable cause, that there is indeed or there is not indeed probable cause to keep the person that they have arrested on suspicion of murder jailed and arrested on suspicion of murder and having it go through the system all the way to trial if it must, right? So this document was prepared by the district attorney's office in order to just give a little taste to both the defendant and to the court. This is what we're going to be showing in the preliminary hearing. I can't remember the last time I saw a document like this. Typically, it's just like, we're having a preliminary hearing. They have all the discovery. Let's go do this. It kind of feels like to me that they did this to get information out to the public. I don't know. So, and what incentive would they have to do that? Well, it's the DA's office. Well, and it's not unheard of to file these. This is it's certainly legal what they did. Certainly legal to have it not be sealed, because they're not showing us any of the evidence. They're just saying, hey, this is the evidence that we're going to show, right? But so there's a background facts, everything. This part, let me just highlight that. Pursuant to their investigation, robbery homicide determined the victim and defendant met in January 2022 when she was 11 years old. They began an SA relationship, let's call it, in November of 2023 when the victim was just 13 years old and the defendant was 18. The detectives learned the victim had been reported missing to Riverside County Sheriff's Department by her family, who live in Lake Elsinore, in February and April 2024. So it wasn't just April, it was February and April. The Sheriff's Department out of Riverside County, down in the Inland Empire, contacted Mr. Burke by telephone on February 17th, 2024. After they identified a phone number in the victim's phone records that belonged to him. During that call, Burke claimed he had spoken to the victim last on February 13th or 14th, but stated he was unaware she was a minor. I don't see an adult when I look at that photo. Does anybody see an adult when you look at this photo? Give me a break. He sent a phone to her at her junior high school, we learn later. Didn't know he was a minor. He claimed he had spoken to the victim last on February 13th or 14th, but stated he was unaware she was a minor or that she had been reported missing. RCSD advised him that the LA Sheriff's Department would be coming to his home. On that day, defendant was living blah, blah, blah. Okay. And miraculously, he claimed he was unaware, but miraculously, 2 days later, she returned home. Yeah. But despite being informed by law enforcement that she was only 13, D4vd continued to pursue her. After the victim returned home in February 2024, her parents took her cell phone away. This kills me, this kills me, this kills me, this kills me. Defendant drove to Lake Elsinore and paid a junior high school student in the victim's class $1,000 to give Celeste a cell phone that he had purchased so that they could stay in contact. Ew. That is a level of evil, man. This one I could not believe. Throughout 2024, Celeste spent significant amount of time with Burke, including summer weekends at his home in the Hollywood Hills and traveling with him to Las Vegas, London, and Texas to meet his family. Guys, to meet his family. Let's can we I don't know, can I highlight that even more? Can that be highlighted more? I don't know. To meet his family. Listen, when your 18, 19, 20-year-old son comes to you, comes home, says, Mom, Pops, meet the woman of my dreams, the woman I love. This is Celeste. Do you think they go like, woman? What do you think they did? And remember, they fought. They fought not to have to testify to the investigating grand jury. They fought it. They fought it. They didn't want to say what they knew. They did not want to say anything that they knew. He had taken her to Texas to introduce her to them. Just terrible. Julia, thank you very much. It's a hard case. Thank you for your coverage. She says, thank you, Julia Miller, for your super chat. And to Shanna Bandick for your super sticker. Thank you very much. I appreciate you both for that. While I'm looking at comments here, we got Alexa saying, happy birthday to your kiddo. Thank you very much. She is the best. Do you think Langston has spilled the tea? Yes, I think he has. Yeah. Hope he has. Let's see. Lisa saying, Gavin, I think I must vomit. I think you and me both. Redondo Beach 7514 says, Gavin, let's hope the defense does the right thing, gets a plea for life without the possibility of parole, and spares a jury from seeing all this. I think that statistically, it's going to depend. It's going to depend on if the DA's office wants to take DP off the table. But I think in the state of California, if he could get life without the possibility of parole, I think Hockman would be okay with that. I know I'm kind of waffling there, but I reserve the right to be wrong and change my mind, I guess, and change my opinion. Lisa says parents need to be brought to justice. Lee in Tennessee. David Lyric's dead to me. Wow. Was this after her death, Lee? Wow. I don't even want to say that out loud. I just can't. Christine Meadows, his parents are standing by him from everything I've read. Cabling, his parents probably lied for him anyway. Leslie asking if anyone ever found out if London was the UK or the US. I didn't, but I think when they said London, they meant London. Like the big L, London. And we do learn later on that she has a passport card, which means she has a passport. Yeah, Heidi Storm. Gavin, how was she able to fly to Texas and London? How is that possible without parental consent? Exactly. And I said this last night. One of the things that Kimberly and I decided to do with our kids, especially when I was traveling so much internationally for work, is to give the kids a taste of the world. So when they were kids, actually, when they were about Celeste's age, I would take them. Let's see. All of them went to Europe. The stank eye you get from like border patrol when you land in Heathrow, at least for us plebes that go through, the commercial side of aviation, the stank eye you get when you have just you and a minor standing next to you, though we look alike, we have the same last name. They are referring to me as Dad, right? the stink eye that you get and the added scrutiny. And I think it's warranted. I think they should be doing that. Man, so many kids are trafficked, right? But how does an 18, 19, 20-year-old take a 13 or 14-year-old to London? How does that even happen without somebody noticing? I'll tell you how. I will tell you how. Other adults are in on it. He's their cash cow, man. They are sucking at the teat of that sow. And they're not going to let anything get in the way of what they can suck out of there. Crazy. Oh, what do we have? Coffee Time for D says, Autumn is going to give a membership, and I'm going to send a $20 super check if we can just get another 135 likes to make it up to 500. Well, you guys are generous. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Libs808 says, Dead to Me came out in 2023, according to a quick search. He's fantasized about death at least. Great research. Good job. Scotch's mom, those lyrics need to be brought up in court. Gross. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Okay, let me get back over to this document to a couple of other things that I want to bring up. Oh, this part kills me. Text exchanges between the victim and defendant contain references to sex, pregnancy, abortion, and use of the Plan B emergency contraceptive. This is what she was worried about at the age of 13. She's a 13 and 14-year-old child during this time. And she is in a, well, they refer to it as a sexual relationship. It's not. It's not. She is the victim of SA. She is being victimized by a grown man who fantasizes about death and dismemberment and homicide. And throughout all of this, I'm sure he has convinced her. I can't say I'm sure. In my opinion, I think he has convinced her that they're in love, that this is a relationship, this is real, because she's 13. She's easily manipulated, like all 13-year-olds are. And I think he's a practiced predator. And whatever the references are, whether she was pregnant or not, whether she had an abortion or not, doesn't matter. The fact that she had to be thinking about these things and considering these things and being worried about these things is abusive. Continues, there are also explicit photographs documenting and corroborating their SA relationship. In November 2024, defendant and the victim broke up, although they continued to communicate, and text messages suggest they also continued to have sexual relations. And then it talks about how April 23rd is likely the day that she died. All of her cell phone activity ceased. It talks about how, let's see, let me go. Oh, he drove up to Santa Barbara area like 3 different times in a Tesla that records everything, that is basically software on wheels, that it is a connected device. It is an Internet of Things device that you drive. And this dill hole, hold on, Gavin. You have it, right? Yeah, this dill hole. Such a dill hole. Yeah. Such a dill hole. Is driving it back and forth to Santa Barbara. Such a dill hole. Yeah, and discarding and trying to hide her things. And of course, they're found later. It's just, oh, here we go. Tellingly, defendant subsequently purchased tools to carry out his plot to dismember and dispose of the victim's body. On April 24th, defendant ordered a shovel from Home Depot that was delivered to his home from Postmates. On May 1st, 2025, defendant ordered and subsequently Amazon delivered 2 chainsaws to his home. On May 5th, defendant ordered and Amazon subsequently delivered a body bag. heavy-duty laundry bags, and a blue inflatable pool to his home. He made the purchases under the fake name Victoria Mendez. On May 8th, defendant returned to the same area in Santa Barbara. It's just the defendant ordered and subsequently Amazon delivered a burn cage to his home under the same fake name as part of his plan to incinerate evidence. The defendant took horrifying measures to destroy and discard the victim's body after placing her body in the blue inflatable pool to prevent her blood from spilling onto his garage floor. Defendant used a chainsaw and perhaps other tools to cut off her limbs. Small blue plastic fragments were found embedded in the victim's remains, which were collected by the LA County Medical Examiner's Department. The fragments were analyzed by the Forensic Science Division. An expert was able to make a physical fit match from the blue fragments to the blue inflatable pool purchased by defendant. And then it says, in order to distance himself, he amputated her left ring and pinky fingers because her ring finger contained a tattoo of his name. The fingers have not been recovered, but I'm with Strategic Eyes on this. This is a manga thing. This is a death cult manga thing. Not trying to distance himself. So, what's the evidence they're going to bring? Well, because this is CSAM, they're not going to bring the photographs, but they will bring descriptions of the photographs depicting Celeste naked, as well as while she was engaged with defendant in sexual activity when she's 13 years old. Again, idiot. I'm grateful he is an idiot. Grateful for it. Numerous text messages between defendant and victim evidencing the SA relationship, pregnancy, abortion, and use of Plan B emergency contraception messages through March 2025 prove defendant continued to manipulate the victim as predators do, as she messaged, "All we do is have sex and hang out, man. I want more than that for myself." These messages were obtained from defendant's iCloud data. The defendant's cellular activity and communications derived from his iPhone and Tesla, which demonstrate defendant's activities from April 22nd to the 24th, including a trip to Santa Barbara County in the middle of the night after the victim arrived at the Hollywood Hills home. And I'm so glad this is included in here because the police were like, Santa Barbara, what? When TMZ reported that. But it was true. Surveillance video of defendant driving Tesla on July 29th, 2025 for the last time before parking the vehicle and leaving on tour at the end of July. Last person to drive it. DNA evidence developed from bloodstains from the garage which match Celeste. Proof of the Amazon purchases and deliveries, which include the chainsaws, the body bag, the pool, the laundry bags, the burn cage. The purchase from Home Depot of a shovel. Uber records showing that he ordered an Uber to go pick up Celeste from her home in Lake Elsinore before he then murdered her. And then proof of the defendant's lucrative career as a singer and songwriter prior to April 23rd. Defendant had an album release party on the night of the 24th before embarking on an international tour. Yeah. So he graduated from creepo, perv, predator, SAer to murderer and went to a party. Went to a party the next day. The next day he did an interview. Text message exchanges between defendant and victim on April 22nd, 23rd, where the victim threatened to expose defendant and destroy his career. So I think he is up the creek. I think he hath no paddle. And I think that that is at least the 17th, what's it called? Metaphor that I have mixed into this, this cocktail of metaphors today. Before we move on, which I need to do shortly, let me just grab a couple more comments from you guys. Charlene Ratcliffe says, Gavin, I know you're struggling with what to say about the parents. Me too. Maybe we just say this. I believe they have other children, so Children Protective Services need to be doing a full eval. I'd agree with that. Lots of dark songs in 2023. Thank you. A couple of legal podcasters say they'd be surprised if his attorney stays on this case after seeing the evidence. How can they ethically introduce reasonable doubt when evidence proves guilt? Well, their job is that they're supposed to do that. Let's bring up Celeste. My dad and I flew Southwest Airlines across Texas when we lived there, and no one batted an eye. I was 15. Yeah, I never really have problems with the kiddos flying around the states, but internationally is a different thing. Ms. Bree says, too many people around had to know her age. I agree. Totally agree. Lib says, it's disheartening to know the vast amount of people who knew about this and said nothing. It is heartbreaking. I feel as though everyone failed Celeste. She never had a chance, says Clarinet Girl. You guys are full of terrific comments. I really appreciate this. Thank you, General Genobi, for the super chat. How do you perceive defense will defend this? The defense's job is to try to introduce reasonable doubt, right? And to try to make sure that the prosecution and the police did everything on the up and up. How will they defend this? I think it's going to be a hard defense. But you know how to inject reasonable doubt. I don't know. Could it have been somebody else who ordered the Uber? I think not. I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here. Could it be somebody else who drove to Santa Barbara? I think not. I think there will be evidence on that. Could it be somebody else who did the stabby? Yeah, maybe that's it. Did they find D4vd's DNA on any sharp instrument, or did they find a murder weapon? There's a part, I don't think it'll work, but there's a place of reasonable doubt. Where's the murder weapon? Who murdered her? Is David framed? Was he framed by somebody? Yeah, of course he was driving his car. It was his car. Somebody framed him by putting Celeste's poor body in the car, though I think there's probably video of that too. So it's going to be tough. And it might be that the defense attorneys are like, hey, listen, D4vd, I'm sorry, you're my client, Mr. D4vd. Maybe we just need to plead here, and we're going to do our best to keep you off of death row. And that's all we're going to be able to do here. So you need to play ball. You need to listen to us. They know you did it. You know you did it. We know you did it. Let's just see if we can keep you off of death row. You can live the rest of your life writing songs in an 8x8 concrete box up in San Quentin. And that's the best we can do for you. Maybe that's it. Maybe. Thank you for that. And then let's see real quick, Gavin, private plane, possibly how she traveled to the UK. It's actually likely that that was a chartered plane. However, as a person who flies privately, now I'm not some like rich guy who flies, is flown around privately. I'm a person who flies small general aviation aircraft into those private, sides of the airports, of international airports, even sometimes. There is still border patrol. They're still there. Now, I will say, a little more relaxed. They are a little more relaxed there. They start to say to themselves, would somebody pay whatever, $200,000 in fuel to traffic a child? I don't know, but I think it likely was private. Yeah. I don't want you guys to think that I fly private jets. I don't do that. I fly like Cessnas. Okay. But I have flown in and out of international airports. So, thank you for that discussion and for hanging out with me for that discussion. Let's real quick. I've only got about 5 minutes here, so I'm going to be really quick. But let us, shall we, do three
It's
questions.
3 questions with Gavin Fish.
Okay, in 3 questions, in this segment, I answer 3 of your questions to the best of my knowledge. I'm not going to have enough time to really go through your answers on this, and it sucks because there's some really great questions here that I want to hear your answers on, but put them in the comments, put them in the chat because I'll be able to read it later. Question number 1 comes from Diane G. What always makes you smile? I'd like to say my wife, our family, but really, it's like scatological humor. That's what it is for me. That's what makes me smile. I like potty humor. That always makes me smile. Question number 2 from Kelly. What do you do to keep your sanity in this crazy, crazy world? Guys, I am a generally happy person. And in fact, one of the reasons that I'm okay doing true crime is that I am able to compartmentalize. I am like a Victorian house. My mind is like a Victorian house. All these little rooms with doors that can be shut off from one another, right? So I can look at this case with Celeste and I can see that so many people failed her, but I can also see that so many people are working hard to find justice for her. And that's one of the ways that I keep my sanity in this world is just, I follow Mr. Rogers, look for the helpers. The helpers are all around. And they are in this case. They're in the DA's office. They're in the LAPD. They're in the forensic sciences unit. They're in robbery homicide. They're at the ME's office. They are private investigators like Steve Fisher and the owner of that house on the Hollywood Hills. They are people who will be maybe jurors. There are people like you who are watching stuff like this and are horrified by it and want to make sure that nothing like this happens to another Celeste Rivas in their lives. There's so much good. It's really easy to get down, but don't let it get you down because people are generally rad. They really are. They're generally awesome. Okay, last question from Krista. I was recently talking to a friend and she shared a really odd, unique phobia that she has. Do you have a unique phobia or any phobia at all? I have exactly one phobia. It's not all that phobious. it's not unique. I do get claustrophobic. So I don't do things like spelunking. I don't I don't like weighted blankets and stuff like that. I get really claustrophobic and I just have always been that way, I guess. That's my phobia. It's not all that unique. But that's what I do. And those guys are your 3 questions. Now, let's get into some headlines.
True crime headlines.
Okay, I got to be really, really quick, and I'm sorry that I'm rushing through this, guys, but this is important. I want to bring this up. Push the right buttons, Gavin. Nova Scotia missing kids. RCMP want answers 1 year after Lily and Jack's disappearance. I just want to keep this case in the front of our brains, man. These 2 kiddos are still missing. We want to know what happened to them. I hope they're still alive. I doubt they are. Excuse me. Close to 1 year after the disappearance of 2 young Nova Scotia siblings, RCMP say their investigation hasn't stalled, but they're still looking for fact-based tips as they try to determine what happened to Lily and Jack Sullivan. The officer in charge of major crimes told reporters Thursday, that would be today, that while the disappearance of 4-year-old Jack Sullivan and his 6-year-old sister Lily is still considered a missing persons case, there is no evidence of an abduction. When asked if he believed the children were still alive, Staff Sergeant Rob McCammon, who we remember actually broke down in tears once during a press conference, reiterated what he said nearly a year ago, Quote, I think the chances that Jack and Lily are alive are very slim, he said. He stressed that investigators have not given up and that, quote, we want answers as much as everybody else. Ever since this began, the RCMP has been actively engaged in pursuing the answers as to what happened to Lily and Jack. This is a critical question for our community when 2 young children go missing and we have no answers, he said. We've not let up the steam and we won't. So here we are about a year later. This one from CrimeCod. CrimeCod is my website, crimecod.com. There's always a link to CrimeCod in the show notes / description below the video. And there's some great reporting happening at CrimeCod. Plus, I do a weekly newsletter, which I invite you to subscribe to. You can subscribe on gavinfish.com or you can subscribe on crimecod.com. There's both places. Scroll down to the bottom. There's a little place. And if it's your first time on the website, it'll pop up. It's kind of annoying, but it's there. Former Missouri trooper sentenced for searching women's phones for nude photos. Cape Girardeau, Missouri is our dateline. A former Missouri State Highway Patrol trooper was sentenced Tuesday to 21 months in prison after admitting he searched women's cell phones during traffic stops and recorded nude photos he found on some of the devices. What a sicko. According to a report from KSDK, 40-year-old David McKnight pleaded guilty in December to 9 counts of deprivation of rights under color of law, specifically violating the women's right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure. Court records say McKnight took cell phone photos from 9 women and seized photos from the phones of 7 of them while he was on duty and in uniform during traffic stops between September 12th, 2023 and July 30th of 2024. In several cases, McKnight told the women he needed their phones to verify identification or insurance, then brought the devices back to his patrol car. Investigators said other incidents involved a phone taken after a traffic crash and another after a vehicle breakdown. You can read the rest at crimecod.com along with a lot of other great articles, and I share those on social media as well. Let's cleanse the old palate, shall we? Wanda, can you give us some palate cleansing music? We're going to transition.
Time to change the scene.
Beautiful. Thank you, Wanda. Listen, I thought this was terrific from the Good News Network. Phone-free social events grew by 567%, led by the generations who didn't have them until adulthood. Members of Gen Z and millennials are attending phone-free experiences 567% more often across the globe, signaling a major shift in how people want to gather. And I think this is positive news. In a world shaped by algorithms and constant visibility, Eventbrite data shows that the generations having grown up with limited to no social media and smartphone use, and which then led the charge to its ubiquitous adoption, is now leading the world back away from constant connectivity. Good News Network has reported before on the rise of offline events, including the Offline Club, which is exploding across Europe, and phone-free US event organizer Canzo in the US. Phone-free events grew by 567% globally between 2024 and 2025, with attendance rising 121% and expanding from 5 to 12 countries, according to Eventbrite, which monitors event listings for terms like phone-free, analog, or offline. These events now span the full calendar year, signaling a shift from temporary reset to sustained behavior. The momentum is most pronounced in the US and UK, though each market reflects a distinct pattern of growth. And I'm not going to continue because we get the idea, and that makes me happy, and it makes me want to go do one. Maybe that would be a good date with my snuggly bear, my sweetie pie, my one and only. Go do a phone-free event. Though she and I are pretty darn good at, on our dates, just putting the old phone away and visiting. We're buddies. She's my best friend. But I love the idea of going to like a gathering where it's like phones are disallowed. I love that. And I think it's healthy. And it's not, like, phones aren't bad. They're just anything taken to excess is excessive, right? Okay, last couple of things before we go. I want to make sure that I get all the super chats. I just want to make sure I don't miss one. I think I got it. Okay, I think I got it. So Dom's mom, thank you very much for the super chat. Goal met. Appreciate you, Gavin. Thank you, Dom's mom. I appreciate you too. Autumn sent 5 gift memberships. Thank you, Autumn. Scotch's mom says, my cat, my daughter, and my grandson make me smile. I don't pay attention to the news as much anymore. I don't like elevators. That's my phobia. Thank you. Mooney gave some gift memberships. Thank you, Mooney. Scotch's mom says, happy birthday to the kiddo that she belongs. Not like property, but like she's one of us in our home for sure. Thank you very much. Coffee Time for D says, we are close and I love your community. Thank you for making it ad-free, for doing it even when you get when it gets demonetized. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, thank you so much for taking care of me during talking about this case. I deeply appreciate it. I love this job. I love doing it. I love spending time with you. I know that I'm a little late getting to my family here. I will wrap it up shortly, but I love spending this time with you. I think it's important that we talk about this case and others. I think it's important that we are vigilant people, and that we also recognize what a beautiful world we live in. And we do live in a beautiful world. And for me, you make it all the more beautiful. Thank you very much for doing that for me and for my family. You can catch up with me on Facebook or on my website, gavinfish.com. If you click on the fish in the menu, that will take you to our Facebook group called The Fish Tank, which you are always invited to join us there. If you want this document that we went over tonight, it is on my Patreon page. It's also on TMZ and other places, just however you want to get it. With that, I bid you adieu. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I will see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.